Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Woke with Wudu. Today, I don't want to say even react, or because we're not really gonna watch it. I'll just put a little bit of this, but we're gonna look at the Nelk Boys Full Send podcast for the Benjamin Netanyahu interview. This is a little bit old now. It was, let's see here, 8 days ago. But I wanted to give a Muslim perspective on this. I know there's already some people who've done that, but I don't know. I just felt like there's some things that are missing. So, without further ado, let's get into this. I'll just play it for like maybe 5 to 10 minutes, and then I'll give my take here. So let's get started.
Before we get into it, if you guys have not tried out the Prize Picks app, you guys
And
gotta
of
try
course,
it
right
out.
away,
You guys
gambling.
much more fun. What I love about it is instead you either go more or less. It's on a sweet deal. Get into this podcast.
You can only
Imagine
introduce
being
a
able to build anything
person who
just
is
by thinking about it.
ethnically
Meet Base
cleansing a
44,
people
a
with
complete AI
another sin, gambling. Come on. A massive, horrible individual prefaced by a horrible sin.
This is fucking nuts,
This
dude.
is so crazy. We are so not qualified to do this.
This is
That's what's interesting about this. We're just not. We just should not be doing this.
well.
That's very interesting right there. He's self-aware. There's some self-awareness. There's something in his heart telling him like, whoa. Something in his brain telling him like, whoa. Not only are we not qualified, but we should not be doing it. Like, right? Saying we're not qualified is one thing, but then saying we shouldn't be doing it is another. Just because you're not qualified doesn't mean you shouldn't be doing something per se, but when it comes to something like this, you shouldn't be doing it is, very, very incremental statement.
We're too
But
far too gone.
here we have
Because there's a
the
sense
Prime
of
Minister of Israel,
societal responsibility
Benjamin
to this.
Netanyahu.
It's not just something
he's
that
about
he's
to walk
doing
into
to
the
himself
podcast right
or
now.
for himself.
This is probably
This is something that
one of
has
the
a
most, if not the most
responsibility
controversial
towards
podcasts
society.
For sure, the most
have
we've
ever done.
Yeah, 100%.
Maybe not the most controversial we'll ever do.
Maybe not.
But this
Maybe
is,
though.
I mean, this issue is just like. And by the way, I want to say too,
The
I'm not claiming
smile
to
of
be an
this.
expert.
Yeah.
Look at his
100%.
smile right
Maybe
here.
not the most controversial
Maybe
we'll ever
not the
do.
most controversial.
Maybe not.
But
Maybe
is,
though.
I mean, this
Maybe
issue is
it,
just
though.
like. And by the way, I want to say too.
They're so happy to have him on. They're so happy. These smiles right here, these smirks, give you a lot. They show you what their internal thinking is. It shows you where their hearts are. It shows you where their minds are. It's telling you their intentions for this meeting, why they set it up.
I'm not
Which
claiming
I'll
to
get
be an
to
expert
shortly.
on this issue or anything like that. I'm kind of just probably like a lot of you guys that you read stuff online, and I feel like on the internet now too, it's like you don't even know what's real anymore. Like you read shit and it's like you see a headline and it's like, is this true? Is this not true? So I see so much stuff about what's going on in Israel and Iran and Palestine, and to be honest, I just really don't know what is.
And that's very interesting. What do we know? There's a lot of fake news out there. You don't know what's real, what's not. What he's saying is very, very interesting for the Islamic perspective about the end of times, when the Dajjal, the Antichrist, is going to come out, which is what is he going to be? He's going to be the ultimate deceptor. He's going to tell people he's God. He's going to do quote unquote miracles, but they're not real miracles. It's like, for example, he's going to bring back supposedly a relative of yours and have them speak to you in the same tone, in the same voice as your relative and everything, but it's not actually your relative. It's a devil in your relative's sort of like characteristics. So that Dajjal, that Antichrist, is going to be the ultimate deceptor or deceiver. Sorry. How are you going to get to that level? How are you going to have somebody deceive people on a mass scale like that? He's going to travel the world. He's going to hit every single city in the world except for Medina and Mecca. How are you going to have somebody in a world be able to deceive so many people. The world has to be ready to be deceived. And how do you get ready to be deceived is by having a reality where you don't know what's truth and what's false. And that's what he's pretty much confirming right now. You look at the internet, you have no idea what is the real truth and what is false. And that's all because of what we've allowed to ourselves to fall into, which is this fake news world. And now add on to that AI development, which is going to allow people to put fully AI fake videos out there that we cannot tell are AI. Forget about it. We're in the world. We're ready. We are ready for the Antichrist in terms of deception. There's already people who are already lost. There were already people lost before all of this. Now, with all of the deception going on, all the AI that's going to enhance that deception, forget about what's truth and what's honest and what's false. Forget about it. You're not going to be able to tell. And now the world is ready for the Dajjal. That's how I see it. But anyways, that's just a little bit of a tangent.
Going on there. So it's gonna be interesting to sit down with Prime Minister Netanyahu and kind of just ask him some questions about
Yeah.
what we read online, and
Get educated.
probably gonna be a lot of hate in the comments and stuff like that. In my opinion, I mean, dude,
We're
if we
journalists,
get
right?
I mean, we're technically
How
journalists.
can you pass up this opportunity at the end of the day?
No, and plus,
That's so, oh my God. Two things, right? We're journalists, and how can you pass up the opportunity? First of all, he said we're journalists here, but then in a video where, because after this podcast, they realized all the backlash that they were getting, and they went pretty much on a with like a video tour to other influencers, and were asking like, what did we do wrong, etc., to try to understand the backlash. And I saw one video, a little snippet with Hassan Abi, where they were saying like, we're not journalists, but you're saying we're technically journalists here. Like, are you or are you not? Because journalism has a responsibility to it. It has an it's supposed to have an integrity and a responsibility with it. You're supposed to be the person who's trying to tell people the reality of the situation, aka exactly what he was talking about. How do you know what's truth and what's falsehood? That's what journalism is supposed to do. It's supposed to bring you that reality, the truth. With nowadays, there's a lot of fake news, and AKA, you're now included in that fake news because you're supposedly, quote unquote, technically a journalist, and you're now platforming Netanyahu, not prepared for this, as you said, and you're not going to have the knowledge to push back on this guy who's just going to use your platform as a public service announcement to humanize himself, to humanize Israel, and to pretty much just lie straight up the whole time about what they are doing. So, are you technically or are you not technically a journalist? Like you're saying here you're technically journalist, and then after you're like we're not journalists. You let go of the responsibility after you did the podcast, but you have the responsibility of journalism, of society on your shoulders because you have this podcast. You're bringing this guy on. You're all that's it. Because you agreed to bring this guy on, you're going to have the responsibility to society to bring the truth out, bring the reality out. You cannot just allow somebody to lie to the public on a platform.
at the end of the day, it's like we get the opportunity to sit down with one of the most powerful people in the world, a world leader,
Yeah.
and we get to ask him some
The
stuff, and we're gonna
opportunity.
ask him what we want to ask him too. So if you guys, want to hear shit, whatever questions you guys want to hear, there's probably a ton of other interviews of him on CNN or like typical news stuff. We're gonna
changing
ask
the
him what
game.
we want to ask him. So to me, this
How
is
can
crazy.
you pass up the opportunity? It came out recently that supposedly Joe Rogan passed up the opportunity because he understands, at least it seems like, and I'm sure, he does with how many podcasts he's done and the wisdom he's had, realizing the responsibility of having such a platform is you bear a responsibility. You bear a responsibility for what you bring to your viewers. That's there's no ifs and or buts. That's the reality of it. They are trying to do something and not take on the responsibility of it. Doesn't make any sense. They're saying talking about this opportunity here, and this is what I'll get to later on again. Like they're fully clearly from everything that's being said, from their smiles, from their joy, from their smirks, from what they've literally talked about why they're doing things, they're literally clout chasers. Like that's what we know about them. So we'll get to
Like
it.
how far we've come, and we're get to sit down with world leaders.
Yeah.
It's fucking insane. So
Yeah. I mean, for any backlash, this is just an opportunity, again, you can't really pass up. I don't see it. Like, there's no one else doing this.
yeah, I don't give a shit. I'll sit down with any world leader in the
I
world.
agree.
I mean, my dream guess is Kim Jong Un.
Look. This is not the issue, is to have him on. You can have him on, but know your stuff before you have him on. Be able to bring the truth out and not just allow him to say what he wants to say uninterrupted. That's the issue. That is the crux of this whole backlash, is you allowed him to come on and say what he wanted uninterrupted, no pushback at all, nothing. And that, what do you say because of that? It's because we don't know. We don't have any knowledge. We don't know what's real. We don't know what's false. We don't know any better. If you don't know any better, that's when you like you said, are you technically a journalist? Because if you don't know any better, you're clearly not a journalist, and you should not do this. That's the issue, is if you are not well equipped for this interview, don't do the interview. But they couldn't say no, because how can you pass up this opportunity for us? It's so awesome to say one day, if I look back on my life and say, wow, I interviewed Benjamin Netanyahu, and I'll get to that again
Both of
Kim Jong
ours.
Un, if you're watching
shortly.
This is kind
we'd
of
love
like
to
that.
come to North Korea and interview
All
you
I could
as
think
well.
about is the interview when we're doing
I'm
this.
so down to pull up to Moscow and interview Putin too.
Yeah. We'll do everybody.
This is
They're
what sets
so
off
happy.
podcasts. You could put a small microphone
And here
here,
comes
but no,
the
you have to see this thing, right?
Yeah, Prime Minister
horrendous
Netanyahu
individual.
with us today. We're here in the Blair House.
Yep.
Right? Is this the White House grounds?
Close.
Close.
It's the sort of the official
Probably
guest
let it
house
go
of the
until
United
5
States.
minutes.
How have you seen like the White House and stuff? Like, how has it evolved over the years, over the times of you visiting it?
I've met quite a few of the American presidents because I've been in office pretty long time. Not because we don't have elections, but because I've won quite a few of them. Okay, I think there's never been a friend like Donald Trump in the
Because I'm a
White House for
dictator,
Israel.
I
think he's a
force
remarkable
myself on
leader.
the Israeli
I think
people.
he's changing history. He said he'll make America great again. He's already done it. You know, America is widely admired now around the world, and especially after our joint operation against this regime that wanted to,
We're
chance
losing
death to America.
the U.S. is
death to
losing its
Israel.
face
Well,
around the world with all these
I
tariffs
think
and what we
together
are
we've shown the
backing.
world a different face of America. Very powerful, very directed, very resolute.
You guys are very tight, right? Would you call it a bromance?
Well, you might. I mean,
Okay,
we've known each
I've
other
had enough of this.
several
I don't want to
decades,
platform this
and,
guy any further, really.
I
I
really like
can't
him.
stand looking at this
What
guy.
do you like
Yeah.
most of?
Anyways, we're not gonna go further on that video. Can't stand really looking at Netanyahu and listening to him. It's like, why would you want to allow yourself to do that? He's literally just gonna lie the whole time, and there's nothing you can do about it. There's no point in listening to him. We've heard him for 30 years. Like he said, he's been in office for more than however many presidents in the U.S., and that's because he forces himself on the Israeli people. He will not allow himself to lose power. And that's why he keeps starting wars right now, because every time there's a little bit of quote unquote relaxation or downtime, if you want to call it that. Well, I can't think of the exact word. In Israel, his corruption case is going to get reviewed, and that's when he decides to start a new war. So, anyways, before I get on a tangent here, let's discuss this. Let's give the Muslim perspective, at least my perspective. And I think Muslims would agree with me, but I don't want to, again, bear that responsibility of saying the full Muslim perspective, like just a Muslim perspective. So, as we saw from their smirks, as we saw from what they're saying, you can't give up this opportunity. It's so, they want to sit with other world leaders. This is what they want to do. It's so awesome. They're clearly giving us the intentions. Mix that in with their smirks and laughs and smiles about when they're talking about we shouldn't be doing this. We're not really prepared, but how can you pass this up? They're clearly clout chasers, right? We've known that just from their brand, who they are, how they got here. But as well, it's not just clout chasing, it's also narcissism. And it actually says a lot about our society as a whole, right? Because why did they do this interview? Well, they were seeking the clicks, they were seeking the attention, and it's something that nobody else has done. Like he said, he's not going to even ask him questions that other people ask him because he wants to do something new that will give him attention. I can understand doing something new because you've heard somebody say something, answer the same question, etc. But this is different, and they're really not doing it for that. They're doing it just to bring a whole new perspective, a whole new um, view, a whole new point of manner, and with that comes full on attention and clicks. So they're clearly doing it for clout chasing. Now, with that, like I said, it's narcissism because they're doing it without understanding, or I don't even want to say understanding because he said at the start, like, we shouldn't be doing this. So he has some sort of like feeling that there's a morality issue here. There's a understanding issue here on the responsibility of what they're doing. They are not caring, rather, about that responsibility to society. Or you can say they're ignorant of it, but again, like at least one of them was bringing up the idea of they shouldn't be doing it. So there's something within him that's saying like there's a responsibility here that we're not really up to. So that is why they're doing it, right? They're seeking clicks, seeking attention, saying that they will always have controversial people on. Let's do Kim Jong Un after, let's do Putin after. It's what they want to do. They just want to clout chase for the sake of it. They don't care about the societal responsibility they have in what they are doing, right? I mean, guys, they're like, look at some other things that they're doing. Like, they're selling alcohol. That's something that shouldn't be allowed. They're promoting gambling. I mean, look at the start of the video, guys. They're literally promoting sports betting. So they don't really care to what effect what they promote has on society. That's pretty evident up until now. Um, and it's really like what this video reminded me of a little bit, or at least what they're saying at the start specifically. It's like people who want to experience like tornadoes and earthquakes. It's like those like thrill seekers. It's like, do you understand that this is not a joke? That a tornado is a real thing that destroys lives. An earthquake destroys lives, kills people. It's not a thrill. It's not a good time, an experience to just say, oh, I was in that, I did that. Furthermore, like tornadoes and earthquakes and things of that sort, these natural, quote unquote, natural phenomenons are a form of God's punishment. If we look in the Quran, look at the stories about the people of Ad, the people of Thamud, the people of Lut, the people of Madian, right? Look at what they were doing. Each nation was doing certain sins, and each one got hit with a punishment, right? The people of Ad, who they were known for their arrogance, their physical strength, and like the construction of monumental buildings. People were like, this is a crazy strong society. Nothing has existed before like it. Like they're so strong, they're so arrogant as well. How can we see them like fall? There's no way that they're gonna fall. So what did they do though? What were their sins? They were arrogant. They were worshiping idols. They rejected divine guidance, and they were hit with a fierce wind that destroyed them. What about the people of Thamud? Their prophet Saleh, alayhi salatu wasalam, rather they, were like skilled stone carvers who lived in like mountain dwellings, and they rejected God's signs, especially the miraculous she camel, and then they also killed it. And what ended up happening to them? They got an earthquake and a thunderous blast. So you can go on. Like I said, the people of Lut, same thing. They engaged in homosexual acts, robbery, etc., and they were also punished. And then the people of Madian, they were doing economic corruption, like cheating in trade, market fraud, etc. And then they were also punished. If we look at these stories, all of those sins right now are prevalent in the US. We're doing it on a mass scale. Like you can even make an argument that some of these sins are done on a policy level, literally by the US as a government. But at the least, it's done by the people with all sorts of quote unquote companies out there uh, calling it business. So I'm just saying that, and this is a little bit of a tangent because, like, if you look at those stories, and this is what the Quran is about, right? You're supposed to reflect on the Quran. Each nation did specific sins and was punished. We are now doing all of those sins combined. What is that coming our way? You reap what you sow, right? There has to be something that's going to be coming our way. Anyways, that's a little bit of a side tangent, but yeah, I mean, overall, it's sad to see, like, because they're 30 years old. It's sad to see 30-year-olds with like that sense of ignorance, or maybe just that sense of denial or lack of care for such, for such a large platform of theirs. They should know that you have a responsibility on what you bring to your viewers. But, overall, we're not surprised. It's not unexpected, right? We're not feeling like let down as Muslims or anything like that, or at least, again, like on my perspective as a Muslim. I don't want to say all Muslims. Let me stop saying that. I'm not feeling let down because I never like had hopes in Nelk Boys or whomever for that matter. It's all about having hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and God. So, really, at the end of the day, in terms of this podcast, the Nelk boys should be feeling sad for the immorality of what they did. They platformed Netanyahu and allowed him to pretty much do a PSA about Israel, and all that while spewing lies, and all that while humanizing himself to the public. Like they said, like in a way that nobody else has done before. On CNN, he can't really humanize himself on other shows. And I'm just thinking as well, not just him, but also like other Israeli officials. When they go on these shows, like Piers Morgan for whatever, they can't really humanize themselves. They're trying to debate, they're trying to argue. It's not humanizing. You're not talking about, do you like Burger King or McDonald's? You're talking about policies. You're talking about ethnic cleansing. You're talking about things like that. Statements that, quote unquote, that are, controversial that the Israeli government officials have said. So you're just totally arguing the whole time, which is not humanizing people. Instead, on this platform, they did something with just a normal podcast, like you're talking to your bro, your bro, and they humanized him. So overall, horrible decision by the Nelk boys, but it's not going to be something that we bear the consequence of. It's not going to be something that we're going to be sad about, or rather let down. Like, I don't feel sad that he did this because he allowed Netanyahu. I feel sad that they did this for themselves because now, like, this is there's a responsibility with this and there's a consequence with this. They're ultimately they have to face God and say, we did this, and how many thousands of people saw this and what that all those consequences. There's a lot to it. There's a lot to it. They don't, again, at the start they said it themselves, we're not qualified. How are you going to face God and say we tried our best? You can't. You're saying at the start we're not qualified. Anyways, that's a Muslim perspective on this. Is essentially they did it for clout. They're narcissistic because they don't care about the responsibility or whatever. They're denying the responsibility, not caring, not knowing the responsibility, whatever form you want to take that. And they allowed this guy to humanize himself and lie the whole time while he's ethnically cleansing. And pretty much now it's not even ethnically cleansing because when you're starving people, you're essentially trying to genocide them. So genociding the Palestinian people. And ultimately they will, they should feel bad because they went against morality. When you go against morality, when you go against responsibility, your heart should make you feel horrible. And we'll see. We'll see if they end up changing a little bit. We'll see if they care about it. I don't know if they're caring because of that or if they're caring so far because of the backlash they got or if the backlash is helping them realize that they did something wrong and then that allows them to feel it within their hearts. Who knows? But at the end of the day, that's the my opinion on this is like I said many times, something they just shouldn't have done. So kudos to Joe Rogan for at least not allowing Netanyahu on his platform. And it's not about not allowing. Again, the main crux of it is if you're gonna allow somebody on your platform, you have a responsibility to your viewers to have a real conversation and bring about the truth within that conversation. You can't just have him on for the sake of having him on, for the sake of clicks. And that's what they did. So that's the issue. Okay, that's it for today. I'll see you guys later. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.